and an understanding.
Si pudiera alcanzarme
No se escucha, ¿sí?
haría un pedazo de mí. Nada cuesta llevarte un arco iris, un trozo de cielo de la suerte. Haría un camino de laberintos y ruedas, cantos de miles, saltar tus sueños, se conviertan en brisa, que los cantos se conviertan en pájaros. En mis manos, tus manos, recubren la paz de la tierra. En mis manos, recubren la paz de la tierra.
¿Está escuchando?
Si pudiera alcanzarme de tus estrellas, haría un camino de laberintos y ruedas, cantos que viven mis sueños, saltar tus sueños, que los muertos se conviertan en brisa, que los cantos se conviertan en pájaros. En mis manos, recubren la paz de la tierra.
No lo puedo ver, no, porque estoy compartiendo.
Cito el nombre de la Red Mundial de Intelectuales y Artistas en Defensa de la Humanidad y la Paz. Nombre, Don Felipe Belloni.
Thank you, Luis Felipe. That was a beautiful song. We're going to move right on. I just want, well, you would have heard from those who perform from the Institute here in Saint Vincent and the Grenadines. Music connects us. We are connected by music. We're connected by politics. We're connected by solidarity, and it's a way where we can reach one another. So if you're not a good speaker, maybe you can sing, maybe you can recite a poem. We want you to use all these measures to get the word out, because we will stand in solidarity with these nations. We have some brothers and sisters from Surinam. I'm just going to call the names and they will just present one after the other. I'm not sure if they are connected, but we have Claudette Etnell from the C47 Progressive Trade Union, Jennifer Crony from Vinciromas Movement, So Kalman Royal Horiho, also from that movement. We have Renel Enfield, former CARICOM Youth Ambassador and NDP candidate in the 2015 parliamentary elections. And we also have Caroline Anches, Friends of Venezuela in Suriname. Please, if you're here, take the floor one after the other.
Jennifer.
Good afternoon. Welcome and thank you for the opportunity given. Actually, I just want to mention our speech have already been presented from Venceremos. But if there's any additional suggestions or information the other members of Venceremos want to add, please do so. Can I continue? Sorry.
Yes, my dear. You're there, and as we are seeing you and we're hearing you, can you please do the presentation? I want the people to feel you. So do it with your passion. Let the brothers and sisters feel your presentation.
Thank you very much. It is an honor to be able to contribute to the rally, the peoples of the Caribbean, in solidarity with the peoples of the Bolivarian Republic of Venezuela and the Republic of Cuba, in the framework of the commemoration of the legendary Commander Hugo Chávez Frías. Venceremos, a young humanitarian volunteer group, envisions a world where all people, even in the most difficult conditions, deserve humanity in order to create opportunities for themselves and for others. Therefore, the impact of the embargoes on the human rights of the people in Venezuela and in Cuba is to be called disastrous. We believe that no economic, political, nor social system should be empowered to oppress or subdue or to dominate another system. Mutual respect, equality, and fraternity can surely make a difference. Thank you very much for this opportunity. And of course, we wish you all the best. If we can contribute by follow-up meetings, we will. Venceremos. Thank you very much.
Participation. Now the others from Suriname, you can please take the floor.
Call in 1 second. May I call in maybe my other fellow members from Suriname, Mr. Rydell Enfield or Mr. Sukerman Mulyorejo?
Yes, thank you very much, Karuni. And also, I'm very happy that I can, for me, it's an honor that I can participate in this Zoom meeting. It is a lot of years, now decades, that the United States is terrorizing this world, especially left-wing movements. It is very important that we as world citizens needs to do something about these things. We can sit and do nothing, but we can also be proactive and bring a change in these things. We'll need to start within our own countries to advocate about liberty, sovereignty of all nations, and that all people are equal. That is very important, and this is one of the groups that is busy with those kind of things. And more groups needs to stand up. More countries needs to stand up so that the United States can end these cruel sanctions. These sanctions are very bad, not only for the economy of those countries, but also for the people who lives in those countries. This system of the United States and their counterparts needs to stop. We as countries from the South-South dialogue, we need to bring this change. And I believe that this change will come. This change will come because more and more people, their eyes are getting opened. Peoples are getting it that these Western countries are terrorizing this world. And I'm very glad to be part of this movement to bring a change in this world. And especially my solidarity goes to the people of and the governments of Venezuela and Cuba. Thank you very much.
Well received. Is there anyone else from your country? Is there anyone else from Suriname?
Jennifer Crony or yeah, sorry, Sokeman Molhorejo.
Mulyorejo, are you there? Please come in, Mulyorejo, Sukerman.
I saw him when he connected at the beginning of the meeting.
Sukerman, is Sukerman on?
No, well,
Okay.
continue with the Saint Lucia.
I believe my brother is a little shy, so we'll excuse him this evening. So we're gonna move right on with St. Lucia. We have our, I know earlier he was having some problem with connection. I hope that he is on now. That's our brother Peter Lancicott, president of the St. Lucia Venezuelan Solidarity and Integrationist Movement, and first vice president of the Humanistic Solidarity Association. Are you there, brother? Oh, there he is. Take the floor, please unmute your mic. Let's go there.
Hello, Denise. Tell me if you can hear me loud and clear.
I'm hearing you louder and clearer.
Okay, I want to help you a little bit with Lancico. It's Lancico. It's very easy. Lancico. Say Lancico.
Lancico.
As easy as squeezy. Okay, I will read my speech, but I also want you to remember to provide my speech, which I sent in Spanish as well, to the comrades in Venezuela and Cuba, all right? Good. For 35 years now, practically all the member states of the United Nations have voted in the General Assembly for a resolution urging the United States to put an end to its economic, commercial, and financial embargo imposed upon Cuba since 1960. The embargo is meant to frustrate and thwart Cuban economic growth and development with a view to the destruction of the Cuban Revolution. To fully tighten the screws on Cuban economic growth, the Helms-Burton Law makes Cuban trade and other economic growth and development activities with third countries a violation of United States law, thereby effectively denying sovereign governments all over the world that have trading ties with the United States their right to choose to trade with and engage Cuba in numerous development activities. An economic consequence of these 60 years of the blockade has been losses of over 20 trillion United States dollars to the Cuban economy at a reasonable economic multiplier of 20. In real development terms, the deleterious effect is immeasurably greater. After 6 decades, this irrational, unethical, and illegal undermining of Cuban economic, social, and political development aimed at toppling the Cuban Revolution has proven a disastrous failure. And the exact opposite has happened. Cuba is now revered by the international community of nations as a respectable specimen of nations' rights to choose their preferred path of economic and social development, and is now considered #1 in the world on the Sustainable Development Index. In spite of the crippling sanctions imposed against Cuban economic and financial infrastructure and operations, including in such a universally vital platform as technological access, Cuba is now an indisputable world leader in science. For example, in the midst of the COVID-19 pandemic, Cuba is the only country of the Caribbean and Latin America area engaged in the local development of vaccines against this plague, namely vaccines Soberana 1 and 2, Mambisa, and Abdallah, and is the only country of the international community that has deployed thousands of Cuban doctors and other health sector personnel across the 5 continents to assist over 140 countries with the management of the COVID-19 scourge. The Henry Reeve Brigade leads that effort in the context of a small Caribbean developing country that has endured 60 years of a criminal blockade imposed by the world's leading economic and financial power. Cuba's achievements are nothing short of magnificent. President Barack Obama, to his eternal merit, was the first United States president to muster the courage and humility to admit to the utter failure and national and international embarrassment of that archaic US policy, and to have taken concrete steps to remove the shame through a phased program of dismantlement. In the meantime, for at least 30 years, on average, 191 countries of the 193 member states of the United Nations have annually voted against the anachronism, seeing it for the illegal and unethical monstrosity and contradiction that it is. And speaking of contradictions, while the US has refused essentially all trading and human development activity with socialist Cuba for 6 decades, the Northern hegemon has been a significant trading partner of socialist China, socialist Russia, and other socialist states for many decades, as well as a key ally and the patron of military and fascist dictatorships in the Middle East, Asia, and Latin America during all those years. The US is presently socialist China's biggest debtor in the world. As we say in the English language, what is good for the goose is good for the gander. And the time expired long ago when the United States should have accepted that philosophical truism. Revolutions have been a fact of life for many countries all over the world, including the United States itself. The history of revolutions has seen the British Revolution, the American Revolution, the French Revolution, the Haitian Revolution, the Venezuelan Revolution, the Venezuelan Bolivarian Revolution, and the Russian Revolution, the Mongolian Revolution, the North Korean Revolution, the Algerian Revolution, the Cuban Revolution, the Nicaraguan Revolution, the Iranian Revolution, and the Grenada Revolution. What is wrong with the Cuban and Bolivarian Revolution? It is high past time for the US empire to accept the fact that the Cuban Revolution took place and will continue to remain in place. There is no destroying the Cuban Revolution. The sterile and artificial financial sanctions that the United States imposes upon revolutionary constructs that it does not favor are at best unethical, illegal, cynical, and criminal. The world has known numerous revolutions, and in most, if not all cases, they were necessary events heralding and catalyzing new modes of organization of production and human relations, as dysfunctional and derelict systems gave way to more modern, newer development platforms. Just as the United States of America had its necessary revolutions in response to the inevitability of decaying and irrelevant systems and the emergence of new production relations, so will many other nations experience similar phenomena. Just as the United States benefited from its revolutions and became the development hegemon that it is today, so must the Venezuelan and Cuban revolutions be permitted to create the new Venezuela and the new Cuba of today, even if their economic growth and development models are different from the United States model. Mr. Joe Biden, the new United States president, finds himself in a position to embrace the policy of a new rapprochement between Cuba, Venezuela, and the United States, just as his predecessor and former White House colleague, President Barack Obama, had envisioned for Cuba in particular. President Biden's task is made relatively simple by the fact that President Obama had already seen the utter ridiculousness of the US foreign policy on Cuba and had engaged President Raul Castro in the first tentative steps toward dismantling the languishing blockade. I wish to call on this meeting, Benin, to consider a proposal that the draft letter should be addressed to President Biden as follow-up action to today's meeting. The exact details of the letter could be prepared later by a small drafting committee. Viva Chávez, viva Fidel, viva la revolución bolivariana, viva la revolución cubana, viva los movimientos progresistas del Caribe y América Latina. Thank you, my brothers and sisters. Thank you.
No, exciting.
Are you there, my brother from Venezuela, Hanan Vargas?
No.
Hernán.
Go. Yes, he's there. He's here.
Okay, my brother,
Yeah,
please take the floor. Before you start, my brother here, he's an activist of the movement of the peoples of Venezuela, and he's also a member of the Continental Secretariat of ALBA movements. We've seen connected our brother David Denny. We were looking for him a little earlier, but he's here now, so welcome. We also want to welcome our brother, former ambassador to Saint Vincent and the Grenadines in the Republic of Cuba, Dexter Rose. You'll be hearing from them a little later today. Let us just give our brother there from Venezuela a chance as he...
Already here. Can you hear me?
Yes, we can.
Yeah.
Go right ahead.
Oh, great. Sorry, I had a lot of trouble with connection.
No hay problemas otra vez.
I am here from Barbados, so if I can speak now, I would be happy.
Okay. And on the other hand,
I am ready to speak. Tell me if I can go ahead. Let me know.
Hello, do you hear me now? So, okay, let me try to take advantage of this connection facility now. What I was telling before is
hi to everyone. Thanks for the patience. I'm part of the location. I was thanking you all, especially the group of solidarity from Saint Vincent and the Grenadines for this Grammy initiative. But also, I want to thank to all the Caribbean comrades that are here today. This has been a very beautiful activity, but also rich in a lot of different political elements that I think are quite interesting and would make very proud Hugo Chávez for this activity. I just want to add three comments to the different issues that the previous Congress has shared today. The first of them is that I want to say that Hugo Chávez, in his different political proposals, have said that the historical goals from for the project of Bolivarian Revolution are based on five goals. The first of them is independence and sovereignty. The second one is socialism as a process of that is built to achieve equality and justice and happiness for the people. The third one is about the possibility to build a national development model which is centered in human development. The third one is about to build a world with a geopolitical model where you don't have a necessary hegemony, but you have instead a multipolar and pluricentrical world. And the next one is that we need to fight in order to save the life in the planet. Those were the five goals that Hugo Chávez proposed to the Venezuelan people at Bolivarian Revolution Project. And I think that it's important to discuss is that an issue that we should discuss in the whole Caribbean. And specifically, I want to refer to the, of course, its goal, which is related to build a multipolar and pluricentrical world. Because in that sense, I think that this international point of view from Hugo Chávez is what we actually have realized the last years in the Caribbean. Maybe one of the main thoughts that I want to share now is about solidarity. Solidarity is not only, as you are demonstrating today, with Cuba and Venezuela, but we also should strengthen solidarity between the Caribbean people. Solidarity from the different common struggles that we have in the Caribbean. The solidarity against colonial domination in the Caribbean. Solidarity in denouncing the neoliberalism consequences, but especially the debt, the endowment of the people of Caribbean in the colonial tool of domination, as well as militarization, and as well as different process of pressure on democracy of the Caribbean. But as well, I think that it's important to raise the flag of struggle for reparations for colonial crimes in the Caribbean. And in the same way, I think it's important to raise the flags of struggles against the against the coercive unilateral sanctions that we are living now in Cuba and Venezuela. In this matter, I think that already some countries have some interesting presentations on interesting times. I just want to add that at this moment in Venezuela, we are denouncing a crime against humanity. Maybe our friends in Cuba are denouncing a genocide of the people of the United States. For example, 8 years ago, Venezuela had a budget, an income budget that was about $56 billion. And the last years, the income for the whole Venezuelan country was something like $400 million, which means something like 1% of what we have for income 6 years ago. So of course, it's impossible to sustain life, to sustain rights, to sustain all the different guarantees that all the revolutions have built in the last year. And the last issue that I want to refer is that I think that it's quite important that we raise the flags of integration from people. Like this activity today, which is about people's democracy, diplomacy. I think that from people power, we need to encourage some initiatives for integration. Integration couldn't be an issue just for the government. Integration is about the people. In that sense, I think that we need to promote ALBA process integration, Metropolitan process integration, LAC integration, as well recently, Evo Morales has raised the possibility of an UNASUR integration from social movement. And I think that we need to promote that kind of integration. For example, our movement is a proposal that actually created that point of view. We need to establish a process of integration of the people to be in the capacity to promote some important policies. For example, in the context of the pandemic, ALBA is serving as a tool to promote the common action for the whole region. I think that in the same way we need to promote that initiative, but also to think in the necessity of integration from people in order to fight against the pandemic of capitalism. We need to fight in order to protect the rights, the common rights for the peoples of the Caribbean and of the whole continent. So, that's what I want to say. I especially want to say just to finish the intervention. I was very touched by the presentation from Shania, Saran, and Steve. Thank you very much, Albert.
And you are most welcome, comrade. And I agree with you. We do need to integrate, because once we network and we pull all our energies together, we will overcome. Because no one man is an island. No one nation, yes, it is in one island, but no one nation is an island. Especially where solidarity is concerned, we need to group together and we will become stronger than and taller than any mountain. So I want us to continue. We need to be consistent. We need to be persistent, and we will overcome together, united. We are going to move to Saint Vincent and the Grenadines, my homeland, your homeland, because you're always welcome. We are always standing in solidarity with you. Wherever you are, we will be here in support because we believe in the rights of all humankind. So I just want to welcome my brother, Mr. Marlon Joseph. He is a member of Venvifa Group, Solidarity Group here, and also Group Solidarity. He's very enthusiastic. When called upon to do something, he's always ready. Just say the name Cuba and Venezuela, Marlon is ready. Welcome, brother.
Thank you, Laura. Greetings, comrades. Now, my presentation this evening is in the form of a poem. This poem is called Venceremos, which in Spanish means we shall overcome. And this has long been a popular refrain used by revolutionaries throughout history. And also it was popularly used by the civil rights movement in the United States of America. Venceremos for Hugo Chávez Frías, el comandante. It was a day like this when prayers not answered fell back on us like showers of acid, scorching hallowed grounds where we intended to harvest a miracle. Instead, you fell from flesh to eternity with so much still at stake, our incubating islands unwinding from the grip of empire. Selac, Petrocarib, Alba, the resistance you furnished across the sea. On a day like this, you came to the market at Kingston to buy spices and help us raise an airport from the wilderness. You serenaded us with smiling eyes and words that laughed in your mouth. People said that your red shirt was a flame sparked by the metal shards of life you lived in Sabaneta, where you suckled humility, selling spidery sweets in the streets. Instantly, we loved you. Viva Chavez broke out like news across Saint Vincent and the Grenadines. It was a day like this when you inspired us with your Spanish and courage, shouting Venceremos at the summit of the United Nations, your voice flashing back and forth like a sword at the throat of imperialism. Venceremos, your voice and sweat seeped into depths of the dispossessed, and schools and clinics were born. Houses for single mothers fashioned in Bolivarian spirit. Fathers cloaked in Chavismo still march and vanquished. Venceremos, your voice cracks like lightning across dark trenches, where still we fight on so many fronts the injustices that you hated. On a day like this, when thoughts were too weak to resist sleep, sadly, you passed from flesh to eternity. But we have been standing here ever since, wide awake to protect your dreams from peril. Venceremos.
Now tell me you didn't enjoy that. I think I'm gonna advise him to publish that poem. So we're still in Saint Vincent and Grenadines, and my brother, I hope he is connected, and we saw him connected earlier. Former ambassador to Saint Vincent. I'm sorry.
Well, they're brothers.
Yes, brothers. Rennick Rose, president of Saint Vincent and the Grenadines Cuba Friendship Society. Let us please welcome him.
Yeah.
This is a solidarity message from the Saint Vincent and the Grenadines Cuba Friendship Society in solidarity with the peoples of Cuba and Venezuela, especially on the anniversary of the death of Commander Hugo Chávez Frías. For us, it is a very important occasion in which we want to lend our solidarity to our brothers and sisters in the rest of the region on this occasion. We find it significant that solidarity is the focus of this virtual rally. For whether we supported the Commander Chávez and the Bolivarian Revolution now or in the past, what is important is that he has always made international solidarity one of the gangplanks of his campaign and has left a legacy for the rest of us. Comandante Chávez inspired a whole generation, as did eternal Comandante Fidel Castro on an even wider scale before. It was the reaffirmation that another way is possible, bringing social and economic reforms to his country, never before considered possible. Yet the principle of international solidarity remained foremost. For him, Venezuela's wealth could and should be used to uplift the standard of living of the millions in our hemisphere and to strengthen the global movement to end hunger, inequality, and justice. Out of that philosophy came concrete mechanisms to advance those goals, such as ALBA and the ALBA Bank, Petro-Caribe, etc. The entire region has benefited from these, which are not just idealistic dreams, but concrete manifestations. These steps to strengthen the basis of interregional and international cooperation, not any hypocritical cries about human rights, are what incurred the wrath of imperialist power. As happened before in the case of Cuba, the response was a vile propaganda campaign against Venezuela and President Chávez, backed up by economic sanctions, which not only hurt Venezuelans, but also violated all the principles of international sovereignty. Not only are such actions depriving the Venezuelan people of billions of dollars of their own money to meet the basic needs of their citizens, but Venezuelan money is being taken away and handed over to a self-declared president of Venezuela, created by U.S. intelligence agencies. Could you imagine international institutions taking legitimate money belonging to the U.S. government and giving it to Donald Trump on the basis of his claim that he, as he says, won the last elections? These are some of the issues we must highlight in our solidarity campaign. We may or may not share the philosophy or ideological orientation of the governments of Cuba or Venezuela, but we must not make this the basis of our solidarity campaign. Our baseline ought to be grounded in international law, the right of all peoples to choose their own path of development, to suit their own circumstances. Our campaign is one grounded in the philosophy of ending oppression and injustice anywhere it manifests itself. It is not about how revolutionary we are personally, but how much we are willing to work with others to end such injustice, oppression, discrimination, and poverty, continuing scourges of billions of people the world over. We must continue to stand firmly against the criminal sanctions against Venezuela and Cuba. Presidents Chávez and Castro did not discriminate in extending solidarity and help to those who need it most. We too must seek to build broad alliances across our region and around the world. Cuba and Venezuela have been unfairly treated, not only by powerful nations, but sometimes by our own people themselves, who, despite benefiting from their international solidarity, are still afraid to even profess our gratitude for their international solidarity. We must work to build broad coalitions in support of justice, in rejection of cruel sanctions, and be willing to embrace all who share such fundamental views on people-people cooperation. Let us reach out to build this broad movement of solidarity and give real meaning to the longevity of friendship between our peoples. I am Renrick Rose of the Saint Vincent Cuba Friendship Society.
Thank you, Brother Renrick. I want to join in saying that we need to stand firmly in solidarity with these nations because we have indeed benefited. And you have to, as we say in Saint Vincent, whoever scratch your back, you have to scratch their belly. And we need to scratch their bellies. So we are going to listen now to a poem. And this poem was often recited by our beloved late. It will be done by some students from the Venezuelan Institute. So we're gonna do right ahead and allow them to do their path.
Por aquí pasó, compadre, hacia aquellos montes lejos, por aquí vestida de humo, el huracán que iba ardiendo, fuesivo de tierra libre, entre su manta y sus sueños.
Mírele el rastro y la paja, míreselo, compañero.
¿Cómo?
Como las claras calujas en el terrenal reseco, como en las mesas el pozo, como en el caño el lucero, como en la casa en el foco, como en la tarde los huevos,
Aprendí.
como la nieve en el pico, como en la noche encendida, como el reón en la cara.
Dime, explícame. We will start again because somebody wrote the.
Yes.
Por aquí pasó, compadre, hacia aquellos montes lejos, por aquí vestida de humo, el huracán que iba ardiendo, fuesivo de tierra libre, entre su manta y sus sueños.
Mírele el rastro y la paja, míreselo, compañero.
Como las claras calujas en el terrenal reseco, como en las mesas el pozo, como en el caño el lucero, como la casa en el onco, como en la tarde los vuelos, como la nieve en el pico, como en la noche encendido.
Como el reón en la carga, como la casa en el río, como en la peña la espuma, como en el rocío en el pétalo, como el cucuyo en el aire, como la luna en el métano, como el potro en el escudo y el tricolor en el cielo.
Grave perfil aguileño, a son de cuero tostado, todillo de bravo pecho.
De bandera va su capa, su caballo de puntero, vaquiano volando rumbos, artista labrando pueblo, hombre retoñando patrias, picando glorias tropero.
Óigale la voz tendida sobre el resol de los médanos. La voz que grito más hondo. Óigasela, compañero.
Como el son de las guaras, cuando pasan los arrieros, como la brisa en la palma, como el águila en el ceibo, como el cuatro en el alero.
como el eco en las tonadas, como campas en el remo, como el tiro en el asalto, como el toro en el rodeo.
Como el relincho en el alba, como el casco en el estero, como la pina en la canta.
En el himno, como la clarín en el viento. Por aquí pasó, compadre, querido, callado, eterno. El sol de la tarde estila su perfil sobre el desierto.
Well done, Joe. Thank you, guys. So we're gonna bring on our brother. I know that he is very anxious to speak, very excited, and he is from Barbados. His name is David Denny. He is General Secretary of the Caribbean Movement for Peace and Integration. Brother David, please take the floor.
What is? Again.
Brother David Denny, Barbados, please unmute and do your presentation. So we're gonna move ahead. I'm not sure what's happening there with our brother, but we're gonna move on to Trinidad and Tobago. I want to welcome my sister, Candice Sebro. She is from the Oil Field Movement Workers Trade Union. Let me just open the floor. Candice, please go right ahead.
Good afternoon, comrades all. Can you hear me? Okay, great. Thank you so very much for welcoming me to be part of such an important occasion where we commemorate the Bolivarian Revolution and we commemorate, of course, Hugo Chávez Frías. What I wanted to share was really what I would have seen would be as his legacy in my experience with Venezuela. Fortunately for me, as part of the Oilfield Workers Trade Union, I've been involved in a few activities that would have seen the fruits and would have seen the reality of Venezuela. And I think that one of the biggest challenges we have is what we refer to as the battle of ideas. And my comrade from ALBA movements, we discuss this all the time, this whole concept of the battle of ideas. Now, what they want us to believe and what we see is not at all in alignment. So here, there's an image of, we have Hugo Chavez and we have Fidel Castro, these supposed tyrants, these supposed dictators, as purported by mainstream media. But if you look here clearly at what you can see, what you see is warmth, what you see is brotherhood, what you really see is cooperation. So can we go to the other slide? And I am a firm believer that when a people are oppressed for a long period of time, what is in their hearts is what truly comes out in one form or another, in one method of expression. And when I personally went to Venezuela, and I've been there 3 times thus far, what I was able to see as Chavez's legacy, it was painted everywhere. It came out of the hearts of the Venezuelans, and you can see murals, you can hear people speak passionately in a way that you may not have heard otherwise about being Chavista, the pride that came with being Chavista. And they would often say, Chavez no murió, se multiplicó, which means that Chavez didn't die, he multiplied. And as you can see here, the image that has Chavez vive. Can we go to the next slide? And I thought it very, very a strong message that came across in terms of what the people truly wanted and what they were really fighting for. Despite what we are told to believe, this is their own expression and their own demonstration of what they, the Venezuelans, want. And I thought that what this was very, very telling. Paz in Venezuela with a little butterfly, you know, stating that they want peace. And so I think it's important that this forum is done so that the voice of Venezuela could be heard. And I'm very happy to be here to see all of the expressions across the globe in support of what the people are actually saying. Next slide. So of course, in the words of Chavez, venceremos. We must always look hasta la victoria siempre. We must always look forward towards victory. And I'm really sorry that I couldn't find one of my favorite pictures. One of they had the heart of Venezuela. And what you would see was Hugo Chávez Frías' signature about 3 times in a line, being the heartbeat of Venezuela, right? And so I wanted to remind us of what happened on the 14th of April in 2002, when there was this whole orchestration to remove Chavez and to destroy this revolution, how strongly the empire fought for that to happen. And subsequently, what did we see? We saw that they put Hugo Chávez Frías right back where they wanted him to be. And these are some things that are characteristic of the Venezuelan revolution that I think we shouldn't forget. And in his speech, he said, after this historic, memorable, and unforgettable day, if yesterday I loved them, today I love them so much more. And it's important for us to remember that. It's important for us to remember what this revolution was really about. Now, today, we're not only speaking about Venezuela, but we're also talking about Cuba, because that too is a revolution that happened in our America. And it's also a revolution that we would have seen. And so in my experiences with both revolutions and in my activity, I would have been involved in the international observation process for Venezuela of 2017. I would have been involved in the Che Guevara Youth Brigade and also with the International People's Assembly. And what you would have seen there is what a little snippet of what I would have seen and my experience with the people of Venezuela and what they say they want. Next slide. Next slide. So one of the legacies that he would have left through the Youth Brigade that I think is important is the sense of community and the sense of togetherness and a political consciousness that transcended class, transcended race, and transcended generation. I had conversations with 10-year-olds, like elderly gentlemen who could tell you about this political movement and about the revolution within Venezuela. And I think that that was very, very impressive. And it's something that we should all embrace as brothers and sisters of Venezuela and as comrades in arms. Next slide. So yes, I wanted to commemorate the brotherhood that also between the two of us, that exists between Trinidad and Tobago and Venezuela, because we've been fighting for a number of years to let the United States know that they are not in control of the Americas and they are not to dictate what happens outside of their borders. So I wanted to commemorate this brotherhood that happened between us, because we have spoken out as OWTU and Trinidad and Tobago as well in that the UN Charter should be respected, and that the United States must respect that which they are demanding of everyone else, which is sovereignty and the democracy of other countries. Next slide. So that's what we saw in Venezuela, right? So now here we have Venezuela and Cuba. When we have this image of Fidel Castro that is purported in mainstream media, this clearly has been a demonstration to the globe of what Fidel was all about. And I captured a few countries well. We can go through these slides. You have Venezuela. Next slide. Barbados. And I have my comrades from David Commission and David Denny from Barbados. Next slide. We have Peru. Next slide. Brazil. Next slide. Italy, of course. Next slide. And so that is just a snippet, and I'm sure many of you in this session here can speak to so many other countries that would have benefited. Trinidad and Tobago, we would have benefited as well. So what you see here is a demonstration of what those revolutions were about. Cooperation, brotherhood, things that we see being demonstrated by these countries, and it's a polar opposite to what we see being demonstrated by the United States, despite the rhetoric that they constantly try to make us believe. And so I wanted to close just being reminiscent of what Nelson Mandela would have said in standing up to the empire when they tried to demonize these revolutions. And he said, "We've come here today recognizing our great debt to the Cuban people. What other country has shown such a history of selfless behavior as Cuba has shown for the people of Africa? How many countries benefit from Cuban healthcare professionals and educators? How many of these volunteers are now in Africa? What country has ever needed help from Cuba and has not received it? How many countries threatened by imperialism or fighting for their freedom have been able to count on the support of Cuba?" And so I wanted to say thank you. Thank you to Cuba and Venezuela. We hear you. And as my comrades would say, Venezuela, te queremos. Thank you very much.
Thank you, comrade. I think I would have done her an injustice when I introduced her. We have been working together for the past 2 years now, and it's a pleasure to have been working with her. She is the Education and Research Officer responsible for international relations within the Department of Education and Research of the Oil Field Workers Trade Union. As the main contact person within these regional entities, ACP, ALBA, TCP, Candace has been involved in a variety of events and mobilization on the aforementioned matters, as well as a drive for consciousness among OWTU members and the wider public of Trinidad and Tobago. And I must tell you, this young lady is very resourceful. You need any information, call Candace Sebro. Thank you again very much, Candace Sebro. And we're going to move along to still in the region of Trinidad. We are going to call our brother now to the floor, Shabaka Kamba. He's Afro-descendant emancipation from that movement, Afro-descendant emancipation movement. He is the brother of Kafra, my very good friend, Kafra Kambram. So he will be representing this evening. Please take the floor, brother.
All right, greetings to the wonderful people of Saint Vincent and the Grenadines, and thank you for organizing this forum to allow us the opportunity to condemn the devastating sanctions that are impacting the welfare of the people of our brother country, our sister country of Venezuela, and also to celebrate the memory of our dearly beloved hasta siempre Comandante Hugo Chávez. Let me just clarify that I am the son of Kafra Kambon, and he is here with us. I want to salute my father, one of the leading anti-imperialist voices in the Caribbean, in Trinidad and Tobago, certainly since his leadership of the Black Power Revolution back in 1970. And from there to the chairman of the Emancipation Support Committee in this country. And he continues his work. He's here with us. I salute my father, Brother Kafra Kambon. I am the founder, director of the Crossroads Freedom Project. And I will touch on that in this brief presentation. So I want to thank everybody for allowing us this opportunity. And now I want to share a few words. Let me start by sharing a quick memory as we celebrate the life of Hugo Chavez. Let me share a quick memory, you know. I tried to go through my mind to pick one, but there's one memory that stands out. I'm in Petare one morning at the beginning of a march organized and led by Hugo Chavez from that side of the city to the palace at Miraflores. And, you know, after about 2.5 hours of marching, as a former footballer, I had an injury on my left knee, which caused me some pain. And I distinctly remember moving towards the side of the march and saying to myself, maybe I'll get a taxi to Miraflores from here. And an old lady who was marching alongside me on crutches, she says, "Where are you going, young man?" And I said, "Well, you know, Auntie, my leg is in pain." And she says, "Are you kidding? Are you here to support the, the Comandante Chavez or not?" And she says, "I am on crutches and I'm going to walk all the way to Miraflores. You're going to make it too." And so I had no choice. But what I want to share with you is the love that the people of Venezuela and all over the Caribbean that I saw over the years, even as a journalist covering Venezuela for Chavez. It is unprecedented. I've never seen it with any other leader on the planet. I mean, we could discuss it at length, but Hugo Chavez was definitely a unique person, and he will be remembered fondly across the world. Now, let me say as a Trinidadian citizen that I want to start off by applauding the position taken by the Caribbean community as reflected in the recent statements of my own Prime Minister, Dr. Keith Rowley, which calls for the United States of America and the European Union to lift the inhuman and crippling sanctions that are causing so much suffering to the revolutionary people of Venezuela and, of course, adversely impacting its neighbors. This noble position fits with our long-standing condemnation of the unjust trade and economic embargo imposed on Cuba and our less strident but no less important condemnation of the multilateral efforts to subvert Haitian democracy. And I think when we talk about Cuba and Venezuela today, we must also remember our suffering brothers and sisters in Haiti. And let me also point out that the imperialisms that we confront in our solidarity today, you know, in these countries are not confined to them. Countries all across the Americas are being violated by imperialist aggression and violence in one form or another today. And we can think of countries like Bolivia and Honduras as examples, but we could go on and on, brothers and sisters. One of the things that has always preoccupied my mind is the climate of justification that surrounds imperialist, resource-driven exploitation. It is never naked, but always dressed in the highest ideals of humanity, with the interests of the subjugated people in its warm fuzzy center, at its warm, fuzzy center. Article 6 of the General Act of the Berlin Conference of 1885, the act which proclaimed the organized theft which divided Africa among European powers, stipulates all powers exercising sovereign rights or influence in the said territories undertake to preserve the native peoples and to improve their moral and material conditions of existence. They shall protect and promote all institutions and enterprises tending to educate the natives and to make them understand and appreciate the advantages of civilization. A few years after that was written, the British colonial minister, Joseph Chamberlain, assessed the conduct of affairs of imperialism in Africa, stating, "Our rule does and has brought security and peace and comparative prosperity to countries that never knew these blessings. In carrying out our work, we are fulfilling what I believe to be our national mission, and we find scope for the exercise of these faculties and qualities which have made us a great governing race. Neither the underlying justifications of white Western supremacy nor imperialism's tragic disassociation between pronouncement and practice has changed over time, and the consequences continue to be awful in the lives of its millions of victims." And I just want to say that I've been working here with the Venezuelan migrants, and the stories are, heart-rending. I had a meeting with a brother called Jose, who took me to his apartment where he lives with 11 or 12 people in a 2-room apartment, including elders and children. And he talked about his young wife who was struggling to find medical care for her to deliver their baby, and the experience he had with exploitative businessmen who mistreated him and underpaid him because of his migrant status. And I thought to myself of how we would multiply that by so many, across the Americas, of all the Venezuelans who've gone to all the other territories all across the region. And when we talk about the suffering of Venezuelan people that is highlighted in the UN report recently, we are talking about real people with real experiences and the untold suffering. So while we congratulate ourselves for our general progressive position, I want us today to note the unprecedented number of Caribbean nations that have recently broken ranks with the community in support of imperialism and its naked agenda of regime change in Venezuela. I want us to note this as we note the fragility of our anti-imperialist position. And I want us to consider this in light of the contradictions that we have internally, and invite all of you to address some of those contradictions. And let me put it to you this way. Let me see if I could illustrate the point this way. We were so proud to see our Prime Minister, the Honorable Dr. Keith Rowley, speaking about and condemning imperialism in the form of the Americans and the European Union on Venezuela recently. But he was standing in front of a coat of arms, the coat of arms of Trinidad and Tobago, on which is proudly displayed the 3 ships in which Columbus invaded and occupied the Caribbean and started the process of colonialism and imperialism in this part of the world. These are some of the contradictions that we have in the Caribbean that are everywhere. And let me say that the cult of Christopher Columbus in the Caribbean is a very serious thing. And our intellectuals have called on us to address these legacies of colonialism, in all kinds of forms and fashion, our artists as well. And have we heeded these warnings? For example, Frantz Fanon cautioned us before he died that imperialism leaves behind germs of rot, which we must clinically detect and remove not just from our lands, but from our minds as well. Have we heeded that warning? right? Our textbooks, our public spaces. Some countries in the Caribbean have up to 6 monuments, reverential monuments to Christopher Columbus. The first lesson that we teach all of our children in the Caribbean, the first history lesson, is the lesson of discovery, even though we know that Christopher Columbus met people when he came here. Now, let me just quickly illustrate that what we are teaching in our society is what is leading to more and more of our countries breaking away from our traditional anti-imperialist stance. And let's put it to you this way. These monuments, these lessons that we teach our children, we teach them to accept the right of white people to rule over people of color, of powerful nations to dominate weaker nations, and to associate colonialism with civilizing work and progress. These mythologies then inhibit our people from developing democratic, multicultural, and anti-racist attitudes. In closing, I want us to recall, of course, not just Christopher Columbus. Let me just say, let me celebrate our brothers and sisters in Barbados who removed the pro-slavery Admiral Horatio Nelson from Bridgetown. Let me celebrate our brothers and sisters from Martinique who got rid of their Columbus, Desnambuc, and of course Josephine Bonaparte, who was a slave owner, and of course ended the cult of Schulterism there in Martinique. And of course, right here in Trinidad and Tobago, we were able to get rid of Alfred Milner. And in the last week, we were able to end the glorification of an enslaver and his wife at the plantation, at the Lopino plantation here in Trinidad and Tobago, as illustrious, while the people they worked until death were demeaned as loyal slaves. So these are changes that are taking place in the Caribbean. Of course, in Jamaica, the Governor General, Patrick Allen, last year decided he would no longer wear the Order of St. Michael and St. Patrick, which depicts a white man standing on the neck of a black man, reminiscent of George Floyd. These are all things that are taking place in the Caribbean, but while these things are taking place, I assure you that we are raising new generations of young people without the kinds of values that we want to proclaim as a people. And so we must change course. We must look at ourselves critically if we are going to continue in this tradition. And of course, I want to invite us to embrace the counsel of some of the previous speakers who said that we must take this opportunity to write to the newspapers, to make the necessary statements publicly, to see what we can do individually and collectively to end what Brother Commission has described as genocidal policies against Venezuela and Cuba. But as I say, we must address our own internal colonialism. We must address our own internal contradictions to make a contribution to the future. Thank you very much.
That was indeed a powerful presentation. Like father, like son, you have done your father well. Bravo. We have 2 more presentations before we close, and those will be coming from the Venezuelan musical performance by Alejandro Primera, we're going to welcome you right now to take the floor. Welcome, brother.
De nuestro Ali Primera, el cantor mayor. Basta de mentes hipócritas, basta de mentes estólidas que nos quieren marcar. Levantemos para siempre la espalda, destrocemos el látigo que nos quiere marcar. Campesino, por tu propia tierra, obrero, por tu propia fábrica, estudiante, por tu propia idea, busquemos lo que ha de emancipar. Sequemos el sudor de nuestra frente y busquemos tras las nubes al sol. Busquemos con alborozo el sol maravilloso de la revolución. Busquemos con alborozo el sol maravilloso de la revolución.
And indeed, that was a beautiful performance. He ended with a high note. We're going to bring now another musical performance by Fabiola Jose. Jose. Welcome, brother.
Cuando en tus ojos me veo, renace en mí la confianza de luchar por esta causa con sacrificio y esmero. Te ofrezco mi brazo artero y mi voz como una lanza. Mi pensamiento, mi canta y mi música vibrante son para ti a cada instante, pues me colmas de esperanza. La sonrisa de tu rostro me deleita y regocija por tener la grande dicha de caminar tu futuro. Apuesto sobre seguro cuando la senda marcada confirma la madrugada, crepitando corazones, que estamos en los albores de una patria soberana. Reparador de dulzura interminable produce la insoslayable querencia del amador. Ya jamás tendré temor con la musa levantada, que con lluvia nacarada en tiempos de sol ardiente alerta que es evidente una época cambiada. Tu alegría incontenible de añoranza afortunada brota y cae cual cascada de bellezas intangibles. Por ella soy invencible y con la voz por alarga siento plena la confianza de gritarle al mundo entero: te defiendo sin empero, patria libre y soberana.
We're blessed with some really lovely musical performances this evening. Just want to shout the Cuban embassy in Jamaica. They're there listening in the background, and also our beloved Ventura, the ambassador here in Saint Vincent and the Grenadines, the Cuban ambassador. Okay, so I'm going to read to you now the parts of it, the proposal. I'm sure all of you here would have gotten it in your email. For those of you who didn't, we will provide a copy. We'll find a way to present the copy to you. So here I go, and then I will give you the last words of thanks, the vote of thanks, and then you're going to remain there so we can take a lovely photograph, and then we can be. The solidarity and progressive movements of the Caribbean, we constitute as a political, social, and cultural force that develops concrete actions to achieve the emancipation of our peoples. Therefore, gathered on March 5th, 2021 at the virtual rally, the peoples of the Caribbean, in solidarity with Venezuela and Cuba, we declare ourselves in constant action in defense of the identity and the struggles of the peoples who have decided always to be free and independent. The progressive movements of the Caribbean raise our voices to denounce the imperialist and criminal aggressions to which the brothers of Simon Bolivar and Jose Marti have historically been victims of. The legacy of Commander Hugo Chávez Frías and Commander-in-Chief Fidel Castro Reyes are more relevant than ever, as they have become visible in regional integration processes with concrete results such as the creation of the Bolivarian Alliance for the Peoples of Our America, the Community of Latin America, and the Caribbean states, the emergence of Petrocaribe, and most recently, the support received from the Venezuelan government with the funding granted to several Caribbean countries through the Alba Bank, as well as the support we permanently receive from the Cuban Medical Brigade that we will receive at the end of the process of producing Cuban vaccine against COVID-19. The challenges that the COVID-19 pandemic has imposed on us have required us to think of other ways of interacting in order to consolidate unity and solidarity actions among our peoples. The progressive movement and the solidarity with the just causes of humanity subscribe to the principles of non-intervention and self-determination of peoples as the only way to achieve the right of peoples to live in peace as enshrined in the Inter-American Charter of the United Nations. Today, March 5th, 2021, when we commemorate the 8th year of the passing of our beloved eternal Commander Hugo Chávez Frías, defender of the most humble and the giant of our America, we pledge to one, think of the Caribbean in scenarios of economic war, continental integration, and the global pandemic, from the critical reflection that contributes to the turn of a new normality of human life on the planet, that humanity is human. As the singer of the Venezuelan people, Ali Primera, chanted for the new awakening of history to build peace is in a better, more egalitarian world. Two, declare ourselves in permanent campaign and concrete solidarity with the peoples and governments of Republic of Cuba and the Bolivarian Republic of Venezuela, as well as all the peoples who strive to make another world possible. Three, demand that the government of the United States of America cease its aggression against the peoples of Bolivar and Marti, and cease the criminal blockade against our brother peoples. Four,
take concrete reciprocal action in the areas of social injustice, reparations, and complaints by the oppressed that exceed the threshold of the dominant and instituted status, regardless of the origin, which violate human rights. 5, defend the principles of life, love, and peace at the risk of appearing ridiculous to say with shame that the revolutionary truth is guided by great feelings of love. 6, support the proposal to award the Nobel Peace Prize to the Henry Reeve Cuban Medical Brigade, an example of humanistic dedication, solidarity, and internationalism. 7, hold the International Poetry Encounter in the Caribbean at the end of March 2021 in honor of the International Women's Day. The Afro-Venezuelan Day, the International Day of Solidarity with the Bolivarian Republic of Venezuela, as part of a great campaign in solidarity with Cuba and Venezuela. Long live the peoples of the world in resistance. Long live the peoples of the Caribbean. Long live our America.
Long live.
Long live the Cuban Revolution.
Long live.
Long live Fidel. Long live the Bolivarian Revolution.
Long live.
Long live eternal Commander Hugo Chávez Frías. Independent and social homeland, we will live and overcome in this pandemic. We really appreciate you. We appreciate your participation and your ideas and voices in support to Cuba and Venezuela. Even though we know the language could be a barrier, we are here speaking with one language, in one language, because we understand the language of love and we understand the language of support, the language of unity, integration, and solidarity between our countries. We had 20 people who took the floor from Antigua and Barbuda, Barbados, Belize, Cuba, Guyana, Jamaica, Surinam, St. Lucia, Trinidad and Tobago, and the Bolivarian Republic of Venezuela. Of course, we forgot our Saint Vincent and the Grenadines. 34 people connected. I want to say thanks to the media houses who have been taking this live. And also, oh yes, our brother David Denier, are you ready? But we're just closing.
I'm ready.
Okay, we're gonna give him the floor because from the time we started this, he was really fired up and he was like, oh, make sure you get this person and make sure you get that person. But what I'm gonna do, I'm just gonna finish this and give him the floor, and then we're gonna just stick around so we can have the beautiful picture taken. So as I was saying, I want to thank the media houses, because without you, we cannot get the message out there. And people need to know what is happening. This is 705 NTB NBC Radio, and also News 784. All who viewed, we want to say thank you for taking the time out to come here and standing in support, in solidarity with our brother nations, Cuba and Venezuela. I am Denise Laura Stephen Stubbin saying, may God bless you and good night. Brother David, take the floor.
Good night, comrades and friends. Tonight is a very important night for all of us. And we are standing in solidarity with the governments of people of Venezuela and Cuba. But we must also extend that solidarity to Bolivia, Nicaragua, Saint Vincent, Dominica, and other countries from the ALBA grouping that are defending our region in the Americas today. Let me say this here. Venezuela is a very important country for our region. The Venezuelan people have demonstrated its international solidarity with our people and have saved many people in our region who were suffering and have made the call for I care. Venezuelans have created a condition for many people of our region through our governmental system, through the Petro-Caribbean Agreement. And today, many of our developing countries are benefiting from the government and people of Venezuela, to the extent that Venezuela have extended its solidarity to the government and people of Dominica in terms of helping them so that they can buy the COVID-19 vaccine to help its people and other Eastern Caribbean countries that are part of the ALBA arrangement. So that our movement in Barbados, we are very, 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 very committed to defending the Bolivarian revolution in Venezuela. We are also very committed to extending that revolution to our region, because it's important for our people to have a close relationship to the Venezuelan people. That means good for our people. So the Caribbean movement for peace and integration will always be there, ready to defend the Bolivarian revolution. Comrades, this is a very important period within our lives. This is the period when most of our countries are today suffering because of the COVID-19 situation. And we have to find ways and means of moving our people forward. We have to find ways and means of defending our people so that we can fight these very dangerous and wicked diseases that are affecting our people. And I want to end by saying that the government and people of Venezuela have continued. The government and people of Venezuela have continued to work with us, to identify all of our struggles and to stand in solidarity with us. Even at a time when you have a country like Guyana that is joining with the United States of America to create the conditions for war in our region. And what Guyana is doing is just inviting the United States of America into our region, okay, to develop a position that will not benefit Caribbean people, but that will utilize the resources of Guyana and Venezuela for the benefits of the United States of America and European nations. So comrades and friends, let us think, let us study. We must understand what is happening, okay? The Guyanese people are not our enemy. The Venezuelan people are not our enemy, but it's the actors within this process that are our enemies. It's the actors that are using the resources in Guyana to create the conditions for us to have a war in our region. It is the actors in Guyana that are not even respecting the wishes of the Guyanese people. And this is what we as progressive people in the Americas are fighting against. And that's why the Bolivarian Revolution is so important for all of us in the Americas. And I have always said this, that the Bolivarian Revolution is not only for the Venezuelan people, but it's for the progressive and poor people of the Americas. And comrades, we must take together. We must fight this struggle together. And I want to end by saying, long live the Bolivarian Revolution. Long live the Cuban Revolution. Long live the revolution that keep the people of the Caribbean and the Americas together. Long live the spirit of Simon Bolivar. Long live the spirit of Toussaint Overton. Long live the spirit of Fidel Castro. Long live the spirit of Che Guevara. Forward ever, back whenever. Let us stay together and let us defend the revolutions in the Americas. Thank you, and God bless all of you. And may we stay together, my brothers and sisters. Okay? Okay.
Thank you.
Thank you, brother. I can hear the passion coming out there. Before I cannot say thanks without thanking the Venezuelan and Cuban diplomatic missions for supporting us to get connected to some of these movements. Without them, we would not have had so many participation tonight. Thank you to the Caribbean Peace Movement as well. We hope we can meet again at the end of this month to do another rally. Of course, with comrades from other Latin American countries and in the Caribbean. For those of you who would do, please just type your email addresses so we can have connection with you.
The chat.
Telephone number and chat and telephone number and email addresses in the chat, please. So
just I want to say something. This is a very important period, and we need to organize, and we need to stick together, and we need to fight together, and we must defend the Bolivarian Revolution in Venezuela together. If it means that every Sunday or every Saturday, we must hold a solidarity meeting with the government and people of Venezuela to explain to the government of the United States of America that we in the Caribbean are prepared to defend the Bolivarian Revolution. Let us hold that solidarity meeting every Sunday or Saturday to defend the Bolivarian Revolution in Venezuela.
that was a good suggestion. So guys, please turn your cameras on. We want to see your beautiful, beautiful faces. So we can go, very good. Everybody else, please turn your cameras on. Don't be shy. We're all family here. Alison, please turn your camera on.
Please turn your camera on so we can take a beautiful picture. All of you that have your cameras turned on. Everton Hannum, my brother from Jamaica, turn your camera on.
Greetings, Brother Denny.
Yeah, how are you, comrade?
Good, good, good.
Turn your camera. You're still there.
I'm seeing some comrades here from parts of the region that I haven't met before.
Right,
I'm looking forward to meeting them soon.
Soon, man. They're meeting us all right now.
In person, David.
Well, the struggle continue.
Yes, indeed.
So we're asking everybody to turn the cameras on.
The struggle continue.
Viva!
Viva Cuba! Viva Venezuela!
Viva!
Viva los pueblos del Caribe! Long live to the people of the Caribbean! Long live!
Viva!
Viva! Viva!
Viva!
Ambassador of Saint Vincent. My brother, Ambassador of Saint Vincent. I am so happy to see you.
I'm happy to see you too.
You work very hard in Barbados. I know you are in Saint Vincent. But I'm
Working very
happy.
hard.
And your wife. Ambassador of Barbados.
But
The ambassador of Venezuela in Barbados, I'm happy to also see you.
you have one good worker there also, our ambassador Alvaro.
Yeah, Alvaro, work very hard. Alvaro is a very good brother, you know.
And we have another one in Antigua Barbuda, Carmen. Carmen, say hello.
Yeah, I am happy to see you. And my brother from Trinidad and Tobago, who are here.
All our ambassador in the Caribbean, Cuba and Venezuela, and good worker and hard worker. Thank you very much.
Yeah. My brother Alvaro from Barbados, my brother from the Trinidad and Tobago, and my sisters. Hello. We have to organize. I am working very hard, but I haven't been able to put it together. But we must organize a very important activity for International Women's Day, so that the women who have been struggling as working class women can explain the situation that affected them during this COVID-19 period.
Thank you, brother, and everybody. I'm saying to you, have a good night.
Okay, good night, everyone. Good night.